It was our 5th wedding anniversary. My husband, Noel Briggs, had just gifted another woman a pink diamond necklace worth $700,000. To me, he gave 2 books. Books, he said, that would help me learn how to be a better wife. I was working overseas when he sent the message asking for a divorce. There was no argument, no drama. I calmly agreed. Later, when Noel proudly escorted a wealthy young heiress into an elite industry event, expecting to make a grand entrance. His smile faltered the moment he saw me, surrounded by the most powerful figures in finance, being guided with respect to the seat of highest honor. It was not always like that. I remember one evening, not long before it all fell apart, Noel and I were lying in bed, planning a vacation together. We were relaxed, scrolling through photos of beaches and quiet villas, chatting softly about where we might go. Suddenly, his phone rang. He glanced at the screen, then gently moved my head off his shoulder and got up to take the call. I did not think much of it. I stayed in bed and continued browsing travel websites, looking for places perfect for couples. By the time he returned, I was already half asleep. "Why were you gone so long?" I murmured. He brushed it off. "Client call." Really annoying. I snuggled into his chest and drifted off to sleep, never suspecting anything. The next morning, he was gone, already at the office. He promised to finish everything within 2 days so we could take that trip. Alone at home, I passed the time shopping online, answering calls from my assistants, and organizing some business tasks from a distance. Then Noel called. "Clarissa," he said, "I am so sorry, but something has come up at work. A major new project. The client insists I oversee it personally. I cannot get out of it. We might have to cancel the vacation." A pang of disappointment hit me. This was my first real break in years, and between the two of us, my job had always been far more demanding. Still, I tried to be understanding. "Is it really that important?" I asked gently. "What kind of project is it? Maybe I can send someone from my team to help." Noel's voice turned firm. "Clarissa, we talked about this. We agreed. No interfering or asking questions about each other's work." I fell silent. It was true. From the beginning, even after 5 years of marriage, we had never once attended each other's company events. That was his rule, and I had accepted it. "All right," I said at last. "Focus on work. Just try to finish quickly." "I will. I might have to stay late tonight." When I hung up, the disappointment lingered, but I reminded myself, we were both workaholics. Always busy. Noel was coming home later and later. I did not want to return to the office, so I managed a few global meetings from home instead. My team at headquarters, poor things, were walking on eggshells. For our anniversary, I decided to surprise him. It turns out, he had a surprise for me too. One night, after Noel stumbled home drunk, I found a small gift box inside his briefcase. Curious, I peeked. Inside was a pink diamond necklace. There was also a receipt. $700,000. Not cheap. And more than that, it was the first time Noel had ever bought me something so extravagant. I was touched, smiling. I put everything back where I found it and waited for the next day with anticipation. I hired a private chef to prepare a beautiful candlelit dinner, a full table of elegant Western cuisine, fresh flowers, soft music. I even had my assistant bring up the best vintage wine from our cellar. I wore a deep red gown and sat waiting patiently. Noel walked in close to 10 o'clock. He stopped in his tracks, taking in the scene. Flickering candlelight, the smell of roasted duck and herbs, the delicate crystal glasses. He stared at me for a long moment, then he slapped his forehead. "Oh no, Clarissa, I completely forgot today was our anniversary." My smile faltered. I had not called him all day, wanting to keep the surprise, and he had not called either. I was sure he remembered. After all, I had seen the gift. He set down his coat, looking sheepish. "I am sorry, I really am." I forced a smile and motioned to the food. "It is all right. I know how busy you have been. Come sit. Let us enjoy the evening." I poured him a glass of wine and passed it across the table. "Try this," I said softly. "I picked it just for tonight." Noel looked at me and, for a brief moment, seemed enchanted. His eyes narrowed slightly with admiration. "This is excellent," he said, swirling the wine without even checking the label. I giggled, resting my chin on my hand. "So, do I get a gift tonight?" Mr. Briggs, Noel chuckled. Of course, I have had it ready for weeks. It has been sitting in my briefcase. He stood and went to retrieve it. My hand touched my neck. Bare, still unadorned. I waited, heart fluttering a little. Then he turned, smiling proudly, and handed me the box. Inside were 2 hardcover books, Global Finance, he said, and Real Economy and Value Creation. First editions, full English, signed by Professor Steele himself. His eyes sparkled with excitement. You know how hard it is to get these, right? He is a legend in our field. An absolute pioneer. But I was no longer listening. My mind had gone completely blank. Noel kept talking, passionately describing how influential the author was, how these books represented modern economic thought, how they were worth more than any necklace, and I sat there in silence, numb. I sat there, quietly staring at the familiar name printed on the cover of that book, the letters almost glowing under the soft light, in my hand. I clenched the keys to the Ferrari I had prepared as a surprise gift for Noel, but dinner came and went without ceremony, without warmth. Just like that, our wedding anniversary slipped by, unnoticed. After we ate, Noel retreated to his study to take a call. He stayed there for nearly 2 hours. I lay in bed, thoughts drifting to the pink diamond necklace I had once seen in a boutique window, a necklace I had quietly hoped might be mine tonight, but all I got was silence. When Noel finally came to bed, I closed my eyes, pretending to be asleep. He lay down beside me without a word. Soon, I heard the soft rise and fall of his breathing. The night passed, passionless and cold. The next morning, I woke up alone. Noel had already left. I moved through the day with no energy. Even simple tasks felt heavy. I kept thinking about how Noel had treated me recently. On the surface, nothing seemed different. But beneath it all, in the quiet corners, something had shifted. Just then, my phone rang. I glanced at the screen and smiled. A familiar name. Professor, I greeted warmly. From the other end came a gentle, refined voice. Darren, Clarissa, how have you been? I am well, I replied. And you? Doing fine, though I still wish you would come back and work with me. His voice was calm and smooth, with a touch of amusement. If he had not been my mentor, that voice alone could have made me fall in love. I laughed softly. Professor, you are practically a pioneer in your field now. Should you not speak with a bit more formality? Clarissa, Darren said with a light chuckle, this company needs you. You left us all behind for love. Is love truly worth so much? You know me, I replied. To us, those of us raised in traditional homes, marriage has always been seen as a life goal, something written into our bones. Even as I said it, I felt a wave of confusion. Back when I was at Yale, I never thought of marriage as something I had to do, but somehow, once I returned home, I placed it right onto the path of my life's plan. Was it because of Noel? Clarissa, Darren said gently, I hope you find happiness in the choice you made. By the way, I will be needing your help soon. I would like Wallace Capital to evaluate one of my new projects. Of course, Professor, I said. You graduated years ago, he said, his voice rich and warm. We are old friends now. Must you still call me Professor? All right, I replied with a smile. The next time I see you, I will call you Darren. Looking forward to it. After we hung up, I felt calmer. My work at home had reached a point of balance. The 3 deputies I had trained could handle almost everything on their own now. Perhaps it was time for me to step out from behind the curtain and take my place in the light. That evening, 11 o'clock came and went. Noel still had not returned. I called him 3 times. No answer. For the first time, I had the impulse to go pick him up myself. I reached into the drawer and pulled out the Ferrari key. I had not yet given it to him, but I would have, eventually. I drove straight to Stella Group, Noel's company. Located in the heart of the city's financial district, a towering blue glass building, gleaming even in the dark. Looking up, I saw only a few office lights still on, but Noel's floor was already dark. He was not there. I called his business partner, Landon. He answered on the second ring. Hey, Clarissa, we went out for dinner tonight. Right now we are at a lounge, doing a bit of karaoke. I kept my tone steady. Is Noel with you? Yes, Landon said. He had a few drinks already. Want to come join us? Sure. Just send me the address. I arrived at the club shortly after, the red Ferrari roaring into the driveway, turning heads as it pulled to a stop. I stepped out and walked quickly to the private room Landon had mentioned. The door was open. Inside, a group of young men and women were laughing and drinking, but the moment they saw me, the room fell quiet, especially when they realized who I was. Noel was slouched on the sofa, clearly tipsy. Sitting next to him was a young woman dressed head to toe in soft pink designer clothes. She was pressed close, letting her shoulder graze his arm again and again. Her laughter tinkled like glass. Noel smiled, leaning in, speaking quietly to her. I stood there, watching the two of them with detached calm. I did not interrupt, I simply observed. Landon finally noticed me. He jumped up with a grin. "Clarissa, why are you standing there? Come in." He gave Noel a nudge. Noel turned toward the door. When his eyes landed on me, the smile slipped from his face. I walked in slowly, sat down beside him on the other side. "What are you doing here?" Noel asked, his voice cool, distant. For a moment, I hardly recognized him. "Landon said you had too much to drink," I replied gently. "I came to take you home." Noel shot Landon a glare. Landon scratched the back of his head, chuckling awkwardly. "Clarissa, can I get you a drink?" he asked. "No need," I said, then turned my gaze to the girl still clinging to Noel's side. "And this is?" The young woman looked at me with a bright, playful smile. She extended her hand. "Nice to meet you. I am Adeline. I am one of Noel's clients." I narrowed my eyes, scanning her face, then my gaze dropped to the necklace around her neck, a delicate pink diamond pendant. My breath caught. Adeline seemed to notice that I did not reach for her hand. Her smile deepened, and she lifted her hand to gently stroke the necklace, as if showcasing it. Something about the way she moved, the glint in her eyes, it felt like a challenge. Around us, the other young people began to whisper, "So that is his wife. First time I have seen her." "Me too. Been working here 3 years and never caught a glimpse. Maybe their marriage is not doing so well." They spoke carelessly, the way young professionals often do, unaware, or unconcerned, about the weight of their words. Noel did not introduce me to anyone at the gathering. The awkward silence in the air did not go unnoticed. Landon, ever the peacemaker, seemed to sense the tension and cleared his throat. "It is already past midnight," Landon said, trying to break the silence. "We should all get some rest. There is still work to be done tomorrow. Adeline, let me take you home, and you too." He looked at Noel and me. "You should head back too." Noel pressed his lips together and said nothing. Adeline lingered, clearly reluctant to leave, her eyes fixed on Noel, with a gentle smile. Noel told her, "Drive safe." Then, without so much as a glance, he turned to me and said flatly, "Let's go." Landon left with Adeline, and after Noel settled the bill, the rest of us walked out of the restaurant together. Since Noel had not introduced me, I saw no need for small talk. I turned and walked straight toward my car. The moment I approached my bright red Ferrari, the newest model fresh off the line, a collective gasp rippled through the group. "Whoa, look at that ride. That is her car. My goodness, is that the one from the magazine? I thought it was limited edition. That is way cooler than Adeline's Bentley." Noel had clearly not expected me to be driving a Ferrari. He offered a brief goodbye to the others and got into the passenger seat without a word. As soon as he sat down, he asked, "Whose car is this? Who did you borrow it from?" "Just a friend's," I replied calmly. In truth, I had bought it myself. In fact, I had bought it for him. But at that moment, I did not feel like telling him. The next morning, when Noel left the house, he drove off in the Ferrari. That gave me pause. I picked up my phone and sent Landon a message, asking if Noel's schedule was truly as busy as he had claimed. Landon had no reason to lie. He was loyal to me. He was, after all, my person, sister-in-law. Landon replied without hesitation, "The new project is with the Grangers. It will run for 2 months. It is important, but not exactly urgent." "Elliot Granger?" I asked, and a thought crossed my mind. "Then Adeline Granger must be..." "Yeah, their daughter," Landon confirmed. "She just got back from studying abroad, graduated from Yale, top of her class. The Grangers assigned her to be the liaison with Stella Group, so she has been showing up to see Noel almost every day." I twirled a pen in my fingers, my face unreadable. Has he mentioned anything about taking leave? I asked. Noel, not a word, Landon said. As Noel's business partner, he did not manage operations, but he did visit the office frequently. I see, I said softly before ending the call. For the first time, I realized I did not truly know Noel anymore, so he had not skipped our trip because of work. It was because of her. That afternoon, I made a call to headquarters and requested a few of our most capable people. I was putting together a dedicated team to take over my mentor's project. Work was the only thing that could steady me now. Emotions were nothing but a burden. By 8 o'clock that evening, Noel still had not returned. My phone buzzed. The special app one had installed just for this car sent me a location update. I opened it. Inside the Ferrari, 5 concealed cameras silently recorded everything from every angle. Inside and out, they were meant for aesthetics and security, not for spying. Noel was behind the wheel, driving with one hand. In the passenger seat sat Adeline. Her makeup flawless, dressed again in that sleek black designer outfit. She leaned toward him, chatting animatedly. Noel listened with quiet attention, nodding now and then. They looked like a couple in the early bloom of love. At one point, Adeline looped her arm around his. He did not move away. I stared at the screen, cold and expressionless, watching them in silence. Then I closed the app. I called my assistant and calmly instructed, "Book me a first-class flight to the States for tomorrow morning, and have someone move the Ferrari to the company garage." There was a moment of silence on the other end before Hugo responded respectfully, "Yes, boss." I threw myself into work. The preliminary research my assistant sent had already sparked my interest. My mentor's project was brilliant. The accuracy of his market forecasts was astonishing. He was a true genius. Then I remembered what Landon had said. Adeline was a Yale graduate. I could not help but smile faintly. Perhaps I had a successor now. Noel came home just after 11. We sat in silence for a long while. Finally, I broke it. "The car keys are on the table. I am leaving on a business trip tomorrow." He frowned. "I thought you were on vacation. Why the sudden change?" "I took time off for our anniversary," I replied coolly. "Now that it is over, there is no reason to continue resting." "You are upset with me," Noel said, sounding frustrated. "I told you already. This project is very important. The client asked for me personally. You know the company is still a long way from going public." "Funny," I said, my tone sharper now. "I thought we agreed not to talk about work at home." "That was my fault," he sighed, as if trying to calm a child. "Once this project is done, I promise to take you on a trip, all right?" I looked him in the eyes and replied, slowly and firmly, "No need. You may have time, but I do not. I am busy too. My company has its own priorities." He scoffed. "Busy with what? That little company of yours?" My eyebrows lifted. "Oh, so you do know about my company?" "Sure," Noel said dismissively. "I looked into it before we got married, and I checked again a few years ago. Not bad, I guess. Decent growth. But the scale is still modest." I remembered those early days, before the local branch had even been set up. Back then, I once spent 2 weeks helping a junior from my old university. I evaluated her company and guided her through economic restructuring and business transformation. But no matter how much I advised, she was firm. She said she would never change her direction. At that time, Noel and I were in the middle of a sweet romance. He picked me up once because my car was in the shop. Just once. That must have been when he assumed I was working full-time at her company. As for that junior's business, because she missed the right moment to evolve, it never grew. Even now, it is still a small, struggling company. Unremarkable, unrecognized, and going nowhere. She reached out to me later, but I turned her down. I believe in second chances, but not in third ones. I helped her once. If she could not make the most of that, then I owed her nothing more, just a small firm. I replied casually, "Nothing compared to your great financial empire." The irony in my voice was not lost on Noel. He heard it, loud and clear. Without a word, he turned and headed to the bathroom. That night, Noel slept in the guest room. I, on the other hand, packed my suitcase with ease and clarity. The next morning, I boarded a flight to the United States. My schedule there was packed. I dove straight into a research team under my former professor's leadership. The moment I arrived, The headquarters buzzed with new energy. After all, the Wallace Capital Group, my creation, was a major force in the field. I had laid its foundation while still pursuing my MBA at Yale. In just 3 short years, Wallace Capital had invested in over 1,500 projects, with a return rate that had grown a millionfold. That initial 15 million investment, it was now worth tens of billions. My professor was clearly pleased to have me back. He strutted around like a proud peacock. Quite a contrast to the man who had once told me my homework was worthless and asked whether I had been thinking clearly when I got into Yale. Soon, we launched the initial project assessment phase. His work focused on global ecological balance, an endeavor not only destined to generate enormous profits, but to address the urgent issues of environmental sustainability. For the first time in a long while, I felt that knowledge could truly change humanity. People with high intelligence and compassion, they were the real trailblazers. The second phase of assessment took us 3 sleepless days. When we finally finished, everyone burst into cheers. The top researchers, people as brilliant as my mentor, embraced each other with joy. I was still basking in that excitement when a message from Noel arrived. "Clarissa, let us get a divorce." Even in that moment of triumph, those words pierced through me. 5 years of marriage. And I still did not understand this man. I shook my head, not bitter, just tired. Darren, one of the lead researchers, walked up to me with a glass of wine. "Clarissa," he said with admiration, "your team is incredible." "No," I replied with a soft smile, "your project is incredible. I can hardly imagine the impact it will have." He tilted his head, watching me. "Clarissa, why do I feel like you are not truly happy?" "It is nothing," I said, brushing it off, "just getting a divorce, that is all." "What?" he exclaimed. Really, there was a note of surprise in his voice, maybe even a touch of relief. "Clarissa, are you serious? That man is divorcing you. Does he even realize what he is losing?" "Darren," I replied lightly, "they say love can dull the sharpest blade. It is something people often say on the internet these days." He burst out laughing. "You are right, Clarissa. I am going to take this project back to China." I looked at him in surprise. From the look in his eyes, he was not joking. "Are you sure?" I asked. "Absolutely," he said. "Even though this project will benefit the whole world, I want its first steps to be in my homeland." I stared at him, deeply moved by his determination. In that moment, I could not help but laugh at myself. I had been distracted by personal emotions when something far greater was unfolding right before me. I raised my glass and clinked it with Darren's. "To your vision," I said sincerely. Together with Darren and my assistant David from Wallace Capital's headquarters, I returned to China. We carried every essential document and the core microchip technology with us. Darren went straight to Wallace Capital's local branch, located in the city's largest economic development zone. The place was more than a commercial park. It was a hub of cutting-edge technology, with luxury facilities, private gardens, and every kind of leisure center you could think of, designed specifically for the introverted tech geniuses we hired, giving them everything they needed without ever stepping outside. As for me, I went home. The apartment was empty. Noel was either working late or off somewhere with Adeline. I had barely set down my suitcase when my phone buzzed with a friend request. It was Adeline. Speak of the devil, she did not message me after I accepted, but I knew what she wanted me to see. I opened her social media feed. The posts were unmistakable, like those of a girl lost in the bliss of new love, and in every single one, there was Noel. There was a photo of Noel cooking for her, one of him speaking during a meeting, another of him driving, and even one of them holding hands, fingers tightly interlaced. The captions repeated one message again and again: how happy she was, how she had finally won the heart of the man she had always loved. I scoffed. Even though I felt the sting in my chest, of course it hurt. 5 years is not a short time. Noel and I had met by chance after I returned to China. We were alumni, and he had pursued me back then. Naturally, we ended up together. Our marriage had been simple from the start. We got married quietly, without any ceremony or involvement from either of our families. His parents rarely visited. Our relationship with them was polite but distant, which, in truth, made me feel more at ease. That night, I carefully saved screenshots of every social media post Noel had shared that included Adeline, his so-called business partner, and sent them to him. I also sent them to his parents. Then I typed one simple message: tomorrow at 10 o'clock, meet me at the Civil Affairs office. Noel called immediately. I answered without hesitation. He said in a quiet voice, "Clarissa, you are back." "Yes," I replied. "Clarissa, can we talk? I do not want you to think I cheated on you." Nothing happened between me and Adeline. It never got that far. I let out a soft laugh. "Sure, since we are getting divorced, it is only right we sort everything out." We met the next morning at a small cafe he had chosen. Noel was already there when I arrived. He looked tired, worn out. "Clarissa?" he asked gently. "Have you eaten?" I looked at his familiar face. For 5 years, we had been more than husband and wife. We were each other's closest companion. We had shared countless meals, late-night talks, sleepy mornings. For a moment, memories swirled, but I took a deep breath and let them go. "Say what you came to say," I said. Just then, his phone rang. He answered it quickly, frowning as he recognized the caller. I could hear his mother's voice through the line. "No, Mom, we will talk about it later," he said, hanging up after a brief pause. "You told my mother?" he asked, visibly annoyed. "Of course I did," I replied calmly. "We are getting divorced. They deserve to know." I did not want them thinking I did something wrong. Noel frowned. "Clarissa, there was no need to involve them. I never wanted to hurt you. I do not want to keep pretending. We can still be family." "Stop," I said, my voice cold. "That is disgusting. Noel, 5 years of marriage. And this is what it comes to." "I know I let you down," Noel said, shifting uncomfortably. "But I fell in love with Adeline. I do not want to lie to her, and I do not want to lie to you anymore." I nodded. "Then tomorrow, we end it. Do you have anything else to say?" I felt no need to drag this out. I had never been the kind of woman who begged for affection or clung to someone who had already let go. "Clarissa," he said with a sigh, "you are always so rational. Sometimes I wish you would scream at me or lean on me more. Just be a little more vulnerable." I gave a bitter smile. "You say that now. Do you even know who I am?" He looked down. "That is the thing. Adeline might seem soft, like a delicate woman, but she is brilliant. She went to Yale. Talking to her challenges me. She has a remarkable mind for economics and business. She inspires me, and the way she lights up when I cook for her, or when I say something kind, it touches me." I raised my hand. "Stop. Do you even hear yourself? You sound shallow." Noel looked at me, slightly defensive. "She said she went to Yale. I guess she does not know you went there too." I laughed, long and hard. "How interesting. She calls herself a Yale star, but she has never even heard of me. And you, Noel, you never bothered to know me at all. Did you ever stop to learn what I am capable of?" He frowned. "Clarissa, I know you are smart. I have always known that. But Adeline and you are just not the same. She is on another level." That made me laugh again. But this time the laughter was bitter. "Noel, I had no idea you were so easily impressed by status. You used to hide it well." His expression darkened. I knew him too well. If Adeline were not the only daughter of the Grangers, one of the richest families in the city, he would not have looked at her twice. "No matter how talented she seemed, I will leave you the house," he said stiffly. "It is the least I can do. We always kept our finances separate. But if you want financial compensation, just tell me." "Noel," I said flatly, my tone colder than before, "I just want you to know," he continued, "if you ever need anything, you can still come to me. I know you do not have family to lean on. I hope you understand. I just want to pursue this love honestly. Tomorrow at 10, I reminded him as I stood up. "Do not be late." He did not stop me as I walked away. I got into my Ferrari and drove onto the highway. The roar of the engine was the only sound I needed. I was angry. I was hurt. Pretending otherwise would have been a lie. Women, after all, are not made of stone. We feel deeply. I had never hidden my abilities from him. It was Noel who always cut off the conversation. He used to say he did not want us to talk about work at home. He wanted a pure space between us, one where only love existed. Even our household expenses had been separate, but daily life. It was always me stocking the pantry, me buying household goods, me creating a home with quiet details he never noticed. My thoughts wandered as the road flew past. Then the phone rang. It was my mother-in-law. "Hello," I said softly. There was silence on the other end. Then her voice came, low and filled with emotion. "Clarissa, Noel was wrong. Your father-in-law and I never wanted to interfere in your marriage, but we see now, you were a good wife, a really good wife. If there is anything you need, you can always come to us. You will always be family to us." "All right," I said quietly. She wanted to say more, but I ended the call, and then, the tears came, silently, without warning. When I returned to our regional headquarters, I made up my mind. I would be living here from now on. At the top of the company's private hotel were 2 presidential suites. One had always been reserved for me. The other I had prepared for Darren. He must have heard me come in, because he opened the door almost at once. "Clarissa," Darren said, his tone warm but quickly shifting to concern as he stepped toward me. "You have been crying." He reached out to touch my face. I turned slightly, avoiding his hand. "I am fine," I said quietly, "just handled a few personal matters." "Was it your ex-husband?" Darren asked. I nodded. "Yes, tomorrow, we are officially ending the marriage. It is long overdue," Darren said, his expression stern. "He never deserved you, his ability. Well, even my assistant could outperform him. I still do not understand what you ever saw in him." I sighed. Truthfully, I did not understand it either. Maybe it was because Noel gave me a sense of home, something I had always longed for. Shaking my head, I replied, "Darren, I am tired. I need to rest. If you need anything, please contact Hugo Bennett. He is the regional director now, my most trusted deputy." Darren's voice was quiet but firm. "Clarissa, I will go with you tomorrow." I paused for a moment, surprised. "That is not necessary. This is something I have to do on my own." I turned and walked into my room. I could sense the deeper emotion behind Darren's words, but perhaps I was imagining things. After all, he had always been a man of intellect, a true academic genius who lived by his belief in remaining unmarried. Knowledge, not romance, was what brought him joy. That night, I slept deeply. The next morning, as promised, I arrived at the Civil Affairs Bureau. Noel was already there. I saw his car parked just outside. He stepped out as I arrived, walking straight toward me. But before he could speak, another figure climbed out of his car. It was Adeline. She leaned against the side of the vehicle, watching us with a soft, smug smile. "Noel," I said calmly, "is it really so hard to part ways? Are you already planning your next wedding before this one has even ended?" Noel lowered his voice. "Clarissa, we have a project meeting later today. That is the only reason she is here." "Oh," I raised an eyebrow. Funny, because to me, it seems quite deliberate. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to the messages Adeline had sent me the night before. One of them read, "Clarissa, stop trying. Noel loves me. I hope you will sign the papers quickly." Another one said, "The one he does not love is the real third party. And, what I can give Noel, you never could." Attached were several photos of them together. Intimate, unmistakable. I handed my phone to Noel. His face turned stone cold as he scrolled, his brows drawn tight. Across from us, Adeline's smile faltered. She looked nervous now, shrinking back slightly. Noel said nothing for a long moment. Finally, he muttered, "Clarissa, she is young. She lacks maturity. She gets insecure and thinks I will leave her. Please do not blame her. It will not happen again." I gave a short, bitter laugh and walked past him into the building. The process was fast. When the divorce certificate was finally handed to us, Noel's face seemed to relax. He spoke to me softly, trying to offer comfort, trying to explain. I remained silent, walking toward the exit. Just then, Adeline came running up to us with a bright grin. "Noel, all done." She linked her arm with his. He nodded. They both smiled as if nothing had happened. But I could see Noel's smile waver when he remembered the messages. He turned back to face me. "Clarissa," he said gently, "if you ever need anything, anything at all, please let me know. I will help you." Before I could respond, a low, powerful rumble filled the air. A car was speeding toward us. An ultra-rare Maybach, one of only a few in the world. For a moment, it felt like it would crash right into us. It came to a stop 5 meters away. Heads turned. People passing by stared at the sleek, magnificent machine. Then the door opened, out stepped Darren, dressed in a custom-tailored suit, polished down to the heel. Every inch of him looked like he had walked out of a luxury magazine. Adeline gasped, "Professor," she rushed forward, starry-eyed, "Oh my goodness, is it really you? I cannot believe I am seeing you here, Professor Steele." Darren did not even glance her way, his eyes were fixed on me. "Is it done?" he asked coolly. "I told you I would come with you. Why did you not call me?" Both Noel and Adeline stood frozen, their jaws dropped in unison. I nodded, a little helplessly. "Yes, it is done. Let us go." I brought my car. I walked toward my red Ferrari. Darren turned and got back into the Maybach. The two luxury vehicles pulled away, one after the other, leaving Noel and Adeline standing there like statues. It was a long time before they moved. When I arrived at the company, Hugo had already been in touch with government officials. They were shocked to learn that a top PhD from the United States planned to bring this project home. The news sent ripples through the administration. Within days, government officials had visited us twice, each time of higher rank than the last. This time, the Wallace Group would host a top-tier business summit on Darren's behalf, with government representatives attending. A summit like this was no ordinary meeting. It was a gathering of the elite, the kind that held real influence over the market and high-level policy. The project would be officially introduced to the public. More than that, it would be a symbol of national pride. All the major financial institutions had received invitations. Even Noel's company received one. It was not until later that I found out why. Hugo had made the request himself. He told me with a grin. I wanted Noel to know exactly what kind of person he lost. His righteous indignation made me laugh. I let him do as he pleased. During the planning of the summit, Adeline continued to message me. She kept asking why Darren was with me. I found it tiresome and eventually blocked her. Then Noel messaged too, asking me if I could introduce him to Darren. I burst out laughing. I blocked him too. In that moment, I realized how perfectly those two matched. Adeline and Noel, both arrogant, both clinging to illusions. Then, to my surprise, another call came in. It was Landon. "Clarissa," he said, his voice quiet. "Yes, Landon. What is it? You really divorced him?" "I did." He paused. "I am sorry. I should have stopped them from the start." Landon's voice came through the phone, laced with guilt. "I am sorry. This really is not your fault. But there is something else, Clarissa, about everything you did to help our company in the past. Please, do not mention any of it to Noel. I mean it. I really do not want to be involved with him anymore. It is all too messy." I replied lightly. "Landon, I know you are not sure just how much I am capable of, but one thing I do know, whatever Noel may think of me, I am not just some low-level employee. I am far more than that." Landon sounded surprised, but amused. "I figured. You never seemed ordinary to me. Honestly, I always thought you were brilliant. Noel just could not see it." I let out a soft laugh. "Well, that is his loss." It was the first time Landon had heard me speak with such clarity and ease, and it seemed to put him at ease too. He added thoughtfully, "You know, about Adeline. Sure, she is the daughter of the Granger Group's chairman. Technically, a real heiress. But honestly, I do not think she is all that special. Some of her decisions at work have been pretty questionable. Still, for whatever reason, Noel is convinced she is some kind of genius. Maybe it is that Ivy League degree. People fall for that kind of image too easily." I chuckled again, a light, effortless sound. Landon came from a wealthy background himself. Though Noel's parents were highly respected, a hospital director and a college professor, they had not been able to invest heavily when Noel first launched his company. That was when Landon stepped in. The two of them were close, like brothers. Landon never really managed anything but still earned dividends, and Noel had always treated him well. "Landon," I said gently, "I want to tell you something, but I hope you will keep it to yourself. Of course, you have my word, and stop calling me sister-in-law. My name is Clarissa." He hesitated, then said, "All right, Clarissa, is that better?" "Much," I replied, smiling. "Landon, do you know the Wallace Group?" "Of course I do," he said quickly. "That is the Wallace Group we are talking about, publicly listed. Their headquarters are in the States, but their main branch here is in the economic zone. I have been there once. The place is enormous. You would not believe it. They even have their own private airstrip. I saw 2 helipads. Well, I said calmly, sometimes, when we need to visit multiple project sites in a single day, a helicopter comes in handy. He laughed. Exactly. That is what I mean. So extravagant. But wait a second. How do you know that? Clarissa, do not tell me. You work there. I do, I replied softly. I am the executive director of the Wallace Group. I founded the company when I was still in school. There was silence on the line. Then, after what felt like a full minute, Landon's voice came back, trembling slightly. Clarissa, please tell me this is not because you got depressed after the divorce. Are you seriously the head of the Wallace Group? Yes, I said simply. And please, keep it between us. Absolutely. Oh my, Clarissa, I do not even know what to say. I will keep my mouth shut, totally shut. If there is ever anything I can do for you, I will give it everything I've got. I ended the call with a smile. For the first time in a while, it felt genuine. 2 weeks later, the business summit opened right on schedule. Leaders from across industries gathered for the event, which had been hailed as the most significant commercial summit of the season. A full delegation from the government arrived, officials I had only ever seen on television before. Alongside them were several well-known members of the National Academy of Sciences. The event itself cost tens of millions to host, all covered by the Wallace Group. Darren was already polishing his speech, and David, my assistant from headquarters, stayed close by to manage every detail. One of my most trusted operations managers, Hugo, was handling the Wallace Group's China branch. He was responsible for everything, from logistics to business partnerships. He entered the venue with me early to ensure everything was perfect. Even before the crowd had settled in, board members from various industries were already networking. I was scanning the room when I heard a familiar voice. Clarissa, what are you doing here? I turned and saw Noel standing there with Adeline clinging to his arm. As always, Adeline was dressed to the nines in her signature designer outfit. They looked like they had walked out of a magazine shoot. I said nothing. Instead, I continued scanning the room, observing the event's setup and flow. I trusted my team, but with government officials and top scientists present, I wanted to make sure nothing went wrong. Adeline spoke up again, her tone biting. Clarissa, why are you here? I gave her a sideways glance. Does that have anything to do with you? Noel, looking a bit uncomfortable, added, Clarissa, this summit is for top-level investors and executives. You should really be careful who you talk to. I stared at the man I had lived with for 5 years. I could not help but wonder how I had once thought I knew him. My taste in men had clearly been poor. Just then, a tall, broad-shouldered man entered the venue, followed closely by his assistant. Adeline's eyes lit up, and she called out sweetly, Daddy. The man turned. When he saw Adeline holding onto Noel's arm, his gaze sharpened. Mr. Granger. Noel greeted him respectfully. The older man gave him a slow, measured look. So, I hear you are dating my daughter now. We have not had a proper conversation yet. Have you dealt with your previous situation? Noel shot a nervous glance in my direction. Yes, I am single now. Elliot Granger's voice carried a quiet authority. That is good. I do not want my daughter getting caught up in any messy rumors. I may not be old-fashioned, but reputation still matters. If this is serious, I will not stand in the way. Thank you, Mr. Granger, Noel said. Thank you, Daddy. Adeline added with a proud smile. Then Mr. Granger looked at me. His eyes were full of superiority, as though I were beneath him. I met his gaze head-on, unaffected. At that moment, Hugo Bennett arrived, striding toward me. Mr. Granger's eyes lit up with recognition. His posture shifted immediately. The arrogance vanished, replaced with polite deference. Mr. Bennett, congratulations. I have heard this latest project of yours is groundbreaking. Hugo looked him over with a raised brow. The Grangers. Yes, Mr. Granger stammered. We worked together once before, at this summit. I was hoping for an introduction. If you would be willing. Hugo gave a faint smile, almost dismissive. You Grangers are impressive. I suppose. Mr. Granger laughed nervously, completely unaware of the disdain in Hugo's voice. Just then, I finished a quick call with Darren. Hugo saw I was done and immediately stepped closer. lowering his voice as he spoke. "Boss, it is time to prepare." I rose from my seat without a word and walked out of the hall. Hugo hurrying after me. Behind us, Elliot Granger and Noel stood frozen, both stunned, speechless. I vaguely heard someone whisper behind me, "Elliot Granger," his voice full of disbelief. "What? That woman just now, she's Mr. Bennett's boss." Soon after, the grand hall began to fill. The seats were arranged by economic rank. The farther to the front, the more powerful the attendee. The first 2 rows were reserved for billionaires, while the very first row seated government officials, renowned scholars, and leading figures from the world of finance. Elliot Granger was placed in the 4th row. As for Noel and Adeline, they sat all the way at the back. At that moment, Darren and I entered through a side door, flanked by Wallace Capital executives. The entire room turned to look. The murmuring began, and Noel saw me too, his ex-wife, walking toward the front row, surrounded by some of the most powerful people in the room. His eyes went wide with shock, his mouth hung open, frozen in disbelief. He looked utterly ridiculous. Adeline's expression twisted with jealousy and resentment as she looked first at me, then at Darren. The business summit began. Hugo, the host for the event, took the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen, we all understand the importance of this summit. To mark the occasion, we have the honor of welcoming the Executive Director of Wallace Capital to give the opening remarks. Please welcome Miss Clarissa." Applause broke out across the hall. I stepped confidently onto the stage. The room was bathed in futuristic lighting, with advanced holographic images adding to the atmosphere. As I reached the podium, the holographic screen behind me began to display the familiar story of Wallace Capital. "Good afternoon, everyone," I began. "My name is Clarissa." At the mention of that name, the crowd broke into enthusiastic applause. Wallace Capital was born while I was studying for my master's at Yale. With early support from my adoptive parents, and later the mentorship of Professor Steele, an honorary professor at Yale, we nurtured an idea into what is now a global enterprise. I will not stand here and say Wallace Capital is the greatest. After all, in this room sit pioneers, giants from every field. I paused, letting the room settle. But the purpose of today's summit goes beyond individual ambition. It is global. It is for all of humanity. What you will hear about today is my mentor's work, his life's labor over the past 10 years. Some have called him a pioneer of humanity. Today, I finally understand what that truly means. He is not just a scientist, he is a visionary. I turned to gesture toward the side of the stage. He said this project must begin in our homeland, so Wallace Capital is proud to support him in bringing these discoveries home. Please welcome Professor Darren Steele. The room erupted with applause. The holograms behind us shifted, now showcasing the Wallace Capital headquarters, its sleek buildings glowing like beacons of the future. Darren stepped up and began his presentation, explaining his research with passion and clarity. His voice carried not just science, but purpose. I sat among the crowd, my heart pounding with pride. Even the senior officials and scholars wiped away tears. It was a global mission, yes, but also a moment of pride for our nation. The energy in that hall was electric. By the end of the summit, business leaders had pledged over $9 trillion in investment, many times more than we had hoped for, not for profit, but for the sake of a technological revolution that would benefit the entire world. The 2-day summit was a resounding success. Wallace Capital's entire team worked tirelessly, and every detail ran like clockwork. As the event came to a close, Noel approached me alone. Adeline was nowhere to be seen. "Clarissa," he said hesitantly, "you never told me you were the owner of Wallace Capital." I looked at him, unimpressed. "You were the one who said we should never interfere in each other's work. You never brought me to a single company event, not even the annual gala. So tell me, why would I have told you?" Regret filled his eyes. "If I had known how amazing you were, I never would have." I cut him off. "Let it go, Noel. When you praised Adeline to me, saying how brilliant she was, I could not help but laugh. Yale's rising star." Just then, Darren walked up beside me. I turned to him with a playful smile. "Professor, do we have a Yale student named Adeline who is considered a rising star?" Darren tilted his head, thinking, "No, I know all the students from China, As for bright stars, there's only one, and that is you, Clarissa. Noel's face turned pale. It was only then he realized how foolish he had been. His ex-wife was a titan of the finance world, and he had abandoned her, believing in the glow of someone with a bachelor's degree and a few sweet words. Now he saw the full picture, and it nearly broke him, but I no longer cared. Darren gently placed his arm around my waist. "Shall we, Clarissa? The celebration dinner is tonight, and you, my dear, are the guest of honor." I laughed. No, that would be you, the true pioneer of humanity." As we walked away, Noel was left standing there alone, his shoulders slumped, filled with the weight of regret. The evening banquet was as lavish as any grand ball. Business leaders from all sectors gathered to celebrate, build new connections, and share insight into the markets of tomorrow. Later on the terrace, Darren found me and handed me a glass of champagne. "Thinking about your ex-husband?" he asked gently. "Of course not," I replied with a soft smile. "I was thinking about the phrase pioneer of humanity." Darren's eyes sparkled with amusement. "You were thinking about me?" I chuckled. "No, I was just thinking about those 4 words." He took a step closer. "Well, maybe you could think about me too. You know what I mean, Clarissa." "Darren," I said, half teasing, "you are my professor. I am only 6 years older than you. Do I seem that old?" he replied, pouting like a little boy. Without thinking, I reached up and smoothed his soft, tousled hair. "I have built my armor now. I do not need a weakness anymore." Darren turned toward the moon, a touch of sadness in his eyes. "Clarissa, never let yourself be treated unfairly again." "I never will," I said firmly. "Not ever again." Just then, fireworks lit up the sky. Boom, the bright explosions bloomed above us, like a glorious finale to the night. But it was not the end, it was a beginning. We clinked glasses, smiling at each other. "To the future," Darren said. "To the pioneers of humanity," I replied. In that moment, we knew, knowledge is always the road to change, and those who devote themselves to it, who carry humanity forward, they will always be the roaring wave of the future. Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below, so feel free to share your opinions. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more great stories. We'll see you in the next video.